Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad. This is my channel, Admin Orange, and this week in 3D metal model news, I'm back at my local library again. It's been a while since I've recorded here, but I thought with my computer acting up, and it's been a while since I've recorded here, I thought I would come use this space again, visit some friends, and this week in 3D metal model news, there's really not anything new going on. I've looked on Metal Earth's website. I've looked around AliExpress stores and a lot of the usual locations that I look to dig up information. Pretty much everything is the same as it is last week, except for maybe a few of the models I talked about last week are showing up in more AliExpress stores, but not any new models to talk of or new information to talk of this week. Honestly, that's not very surprising. I mentioned this a little bit last week. The Chinese New Year is coming up, so things are tapering and quietening down as they get ready to celebrate their New Year's. I believe a very similar thing happened last year where things got quiet towards the end of January and really didn't pick back up until February. So as far as new models coming out, there's really nothing new to talk about this week. However, there are some things I would like to go over, one of which reviewing last week's topic. Last week at the end of the video I talked about colored models versus silver models a little bit, and how over time more colored models have started to come out, and I posed the question at the end of the video, are there any silver models you would like to see recolored? And I did get a few responses. I will read some of those responses right now from Richard Kroll. I just finished building the Metal Earth B-24 Liberator model. It turned out great, just as their P-51 Mustang did. I would love to see the same level of color and quality in the F-4U Corsair and P-38 Lightning. I know that a recolor Corvair is available. I've built one and it looks good, but lacks the detail and definition of the Liberator and Mustang models. Some models do better monochrome. I've built both the silver and the color Cinderella carriage, and everyone agrees that the silver looks better. There is a bicolor version of the Chinese armor. I built the solid gold color version, and I think that it looks better than the bicolor. But I have to agree that a full color model yields superior results in most cases, especially for architectural models. I prefer the color metal approach. Enameled metal allows for more detail, but a lot of the enameling methods result in models where the enamel layer cracks when the part is bent. I have to commend Metal Earth on their method, which suffers from less cracking than most other enameled models. Rather long comment. It's got some information in there that I didn't know. I really didn't know, but I'm not surprised that some of these models are available in color. I'm assuming that Richard Kroll is talking about, for instance, the Corsair being available through maybe a different brand or a different company in color. I don't think Metal Earth has the Corsair, but nothing but silver. And the Princess Carriage, I don't know if it's a Disney exclusive, and I don't remember, honestly, I don't think Disney has a color version, but maybe they do. But there's probably a knockoff color version out there. But it's interesting. I can see what you're saying there. There are some models that probably look a lot better in color, and the B-24 that I recently did looks amazing in color, and I can see where some models like the carriage would just look better in a solid color. Certainly some of that's going to be towards opinion, but I can't say that I disagree with anything that Richard has said. We also have a comment from George Bell. What models would I like to see in color? All of them. I'm kidding, of course. I do think the military kits, especially the tanks, just scream to be in color. But if I had to pick just one model, I think the fire engine would be a great one to release in color. That's an interesting selection. I could definitely see where a lot of people would probably like the military models, the tanks and such in color, especially camouflage, since a lot of that stuff probably would have normally been in camouflage. And there are some like EMU models, I think, that were recently put out in camouflage, and that would probably look pretty amazing. I even remember a young lady who at one point built some Metal Earth models and had some videos of them, had painted one of the tanks and did a little stop motion video with it, and it looked pretty cool. But I would not have thought to include the fire engine in one of that. That could look really cool, but the fire engine is also a rather small model, so I could see there's a possibility of that not going as well as one hoped, but who knows. Christopher Thorpe also comments, Hi Brad, I would like to see the Star Trek models in color. The Klingon bird of prey especially would look cool in color. Also, the book models would be interesting. Maybe a partial color for the ocean parts of the models. That is an interesting thought. The book models, there's 2 of them out so far, having some blue in there for the ocean would be an interesting touch. Which direction though would you want to go? Would you want to include the colors of a book since the books are supposed to be books, or would you want to include the color since both of the books have to do with water? Interesting choice there. And I wouldn't have thought of the Star Trek models in color, but that would be nice as well. I am a big Star Trek fan, and if you look way back in my channel, you might find some videos where I used to do unboxings of the Star Trek Starship magazines. But I stopped that after a while, and it was really nice to collect those models. But one of the things that they were notorious for not quite getting right is getting the windows, the color of the windows lined up with the actual engraving of the windows. I hate to see something like that happen with the Metal Earth. I really like that they have Star Trek models. The Enterprise models didn't turn out as well as I would have liked them to. There's only so much you can do with shaping metal, but the Klingon models turned out great, and I would love to get a bird of prey in a dark green, sort of a Klingon green color. That would be pretty amazing, I think. So from those 3 comments, one of the things that seems to stand out is, and one of the things that I'm thinking is a lot of people would probably enjoy the military stuff, the planes and the tanks and things like that, brought in color, as well as more ships. I would classify the ships with that as well, and the ships with the accents of red and some gold maybe would really, really stand out. And the Missouri, I believe it was in Missouri, has color, and it is really amazing. And there's been some other ships out from Peace Corps that have looked really amazing, and I can see the tanks and the planes that have come out so far in color, like the P-51 and the B-24, look really amazing. So it seems like the military line, the tanks, the ships, and the planes would be an excellent way to go as far as adding color. But that's just my opinion. Since the beginning of the year, I've been doing kind of a short series of videos for the new people coming into Metal Earth. The last one that I just released the other day was about flying parts. One of the things you sometimes encounter when building these models, parts popping out of your tools or popping off and flying off into the distance when you're clipping out of the sheets. And I made a video talking about that and the ways to prevent that and what to do when you're trying to find the model. And I did get a couple of comments on that, some things that I didn't think about that I just wanted to add into this video since I have the time. A couple of different people mentioned the idea of magnetizing your tools to help keep parts from flying off, and that did not occur to me. Both Daryl603 and John Finnegan Jr. both left comments on the flying parts video where they apparently magnetized their tools, and that may not completely prevent things from popping off, but it would certainly lessen it so that not as many things would go flying off and disappearing in the carpet or in the corners or wherever. And when in that video I also talked about if you do have a part fly off in the distance, ways to look for it, get down low with a flashlight or some source of light, turn off the other lights in the room and try to look for a reflection of shiny parts. But Code Wookie points out that alternatively, instead of just looking for a reflection off of the part, but look for unexplained shadows that may be cast by the part if you hold the light down low. And that's certainly a good idea. I didn't think about that. There's 2 ways to find parts laying on the carpet or on the ground. Both look for the shadows of them if the light is at a close angle to where you're looking, or a reflection if it happens to reflect off of it. So I'll pose this question to everyone watching this week. What are steps that you take to prevent parts from being lost, from flying or falling off the table or flying out of hand and disappearing somewhere around the room? What steps do you take to prevent that from happening, and what do you do if something goes missing? How do you find it? What methods have worked for you? Leave your comments down below. I'd be interested to hear them, and we'll certainly talk about them next week. And something that I haven't done in a while, and it seems like a decent time to do it, is just give kind of a channel update, what's going on as far as behind the scenes. One of the issues that's been plaguing me lately, if you haven't seen on social media already, is I've been having some computer problems. I basically work between a laptop and a PC. The PC does most of the heavy lifting and the video rendering and some of the editing, but I use the laptop that I actually have here in front of me for a lot of small editing, and I've got a little monitor here while I'm reading the news. But the PC that I have at home has been giving me some issues, and I thought originally it was a hard drive. I was trying to render last week's news video I'd recorded it, I had edited it, and everything was good to go, but when I went to render it and upload it, it kept failing. We kept losing connection with the media and just putting green in its place. And when I tried to copy the files back over to my laptop through an external USB drive, I had problems copying it. The drives kept cutting out. And I first thought it was the one hard drive. I typically keep at least 2 hard drives in my computer. One is the C drive, it's where all the programs are, it's where all the main stuff is, but I also keep a secondary hard drive that mostly has videos and some of the material that I use for making videos. The thing is videos take up a lot of room, and the main hard drive can only be 2 gigabytes on a Windows operating system. Windows won't see anything more than that, but I can buy a 3 or 4 gig as a backup drive and store a lot more on it. It also gives you some safety margin. If a hard drive fails, you're not losing every single thing. But it seemed like that secondary hard drive was giving me problems, so I ordered another. Gave it a couple of days, and when it came in the mail, I put it in and was able to get everything off of the failing hard drive onto the new hard drive. Amazingly enough, went to work on and render some more video and started having the same problem. So it appears that perhaps it wasn't the hard drive after all. Now, I didn't just say, oh, it's a hard drive, and replace it. I did pull the hard drive out, I put it in another computer. The other computer, for whatever reason, didn't detect it, and I just assumed that that's what it was. This hard drive is intermittently going out, and went ahead and replaced it. And now that I see the problem still exists, I've looked elsewhere. I thought maybe my computer is overloaded. I've got too many drives hooked up to and inside of it. And maybe it was a power supply issue, so I unhooked a lot of things, got it down to the basics, and went into the BIOS looking to the power, see what the power feed is, and I noticed that the 3.3 channel is jumping up and dropping down out of an expected range. So now I'm on the idea that the power supply is cutting out and causing all the drives to disconnect and reconnect and keeping me from doing what I need to do. Power supply is in the mail and should be showing up sometime today, so hopefully this weekend I'll be back on track with everything. But for today, I'm just using the laptop again. I'll be rendering video. I'll be able to do it in 720. For the news video, that's not bad, but hopefully in the next few days I'll be back on track with everything. And also, as far as the Etsy store is concerned, so I've got the 3D printed tools I sell on there. My 3D printer has also been giving me some issues. I've been running that thing, I don't want to say hard, but it has done a lot of printing over the past year, and I've done some maintenance to it, but I think it needs a bit of an overhaul. I've got an upgrade that I've been meaning to do to it, and I've just been sitting on. I'm going to do that. I'm going to clean it up, and I've got a nozzle for it in the mail as well, because I think as much printing as I've done, I've possibly worn the nozzle down, and it's not getting consistent prints anymore. So I want to get that issue fixed. I have a few tools sitting around, a few random colors that I printed ahead of time, and you might find I'll put some of those on Etsy, but the Etsy store is probably going to be a little quiet for a while as I get things back in shape as far as the 3D printer is concerned. And also, with it being a new year and a lot of the things that I use to get set up to be able to sell these tools on Etsy have been essentially paid for, I can see a price cut coming in the future for those tools when I get back on track as far as getting to where I can print the stuff and get it out to you in a reasonable fashion. I see a price cut coming to my Etsy shop in the somewhat near future. And as far as updates concerned, on a more personal note, I'm still on dialysis, still waiting for a kidney, but overall things are going pretty good. The dialysis that I'm on is not, I'm doing dialysis at home, which gives me a lot of freedom back, and I'm able to do a lot of the things that I want to do, though I am still restricted in some aspects. Just recently had an appointment with the kidney transplant team. I've been on the wait list for at least a year now, and honestly things have been going, I've responded well enough to the dialysis treatment at this point that while I still need a kidney, I'm not in dire need for a kidney, and that is good news. And probably will mean that my wait is a little bit longer, but as it stands now, I'm okay with that because I'm able to maintain things as I am now. And that also opens up the opportunity that while I'm not in desperate shape for a kidney, I can take the time to wait for one that is perfectly right for me. So it's kind of a mixed news, and I'm condensing everything a little bit, but still on the wait list. Health-wise is looking okay. I've got a failing kidney, does have some residual function, but it'll get me by with dialysis for a little while longer at least. And if things get worse, then, well, basically I've got a little bit of time. So overall, I think that's good news. We're coming up into the 3rd year since my transplant. Come June, will make 3 years of my new heart, and I still feel like I'm going fairly strong, and just thrilled to be here, to still be able to make these videos, to still be able to live a life, and still be able to see my friends and my families and my kids. And yeah, so still thankful for that. I'm going in February for another right heart cath. I don't expect any bad news, and if all goes well, this will be my last right heart cath. As long as things go good, this will be my last one. There's one more appointment after that in June. It'll be a left and right heart cath, which is a bit of a different experience. And if that goes well, I'm down to just 6 appointments every 6 months with a left and right heart cath every year. That'll be that'll be a nice place to get to where there's not every so many months I've got to drive an hour and a half to hospital. I only have to do it, or every 4 months, I don't have to drive an hour and a half to hospital and go through a procedure. I only have to drive an hour and a half to the hospital twice a year and only have to go through a procedure 1 time a year. So that'll be nice. I think I've rambled on enough. The one thing that I haven't said is about links in the description, which there really won't be any this week because there's nothing new to link to and talk about. But I do want to thank you for watching. I do want to thank my Patreon supporters for continuing to support this channel and making these videos possible. Hoping to have that Cologne Cathedral build video coming next week. It's going to be a 3-parter, I can tell you that now, because it was a long build with a lot of detail, but it was really, really cool to look back on that thing. So amazing. Those videos coming next week. I've also started on some more builds, so new year, it's time I start getting back in the swing of things. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep on keeping on.